Welcome to the B'nai B'rith International podcast. I'm CEO Dan Mariaschin. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm joined today by Andy Borans, the former executive director of the Alpha Epsilon Pi fraternity, and now the CEO of its foundation. Andy and I will be discussing the alarming continuation of anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses across the country. How bad is the situation for Jewish students today? What's being done to combat anti-Semitism on campuses? How can we ensure that supporters of the BDS movement do not hijack student government agendas? Well, we'll be talking about all that and more on today's podcast. Andy, welcome.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be here, Dan.
First, let's talk about AEPI, 1913, founded in New York City.
Great.
Pick it up from there.
A group of 11 men decided in 1913 they wanted to join fraternities, but being Jewish, they could not do that. So they decided to start their own. And under the Washington Square Arch in NYU, they began AEPI, and those 11 men today have, in one chapter at NYU, have turned into 192 chapters around the world. Those 11 men who are undergrads now, this is about 12,000 undergrads and 105,000 alumni. And we're in 7 countries. The last 10 years we have gone from America to Canada, to England, to Scotland, to Austria, to France, to Israel, and our latest we just opened up in Australia. So we're very, very happy about our growth over the years and our influence in keeping Jewish kids Jewish. That's our goal, and making sure that we train the future Jewish leaders of the world.
How do you do that in an era where there are so many distractions? The internet, of course, being, we talk about it frequently, but there are a lot of other distractions out there. How do you keep on the straight and narrow with those mission objectives?
Sure. The basics are always in place. And also from AEPI, it's Jewish from the top down. While we have individual chapters, the initiatives that AEPI has are all top down. We celebrate the holidays, we fight BDS, we fight anti-Semitism, we are pro making sure that every kid who didn't have a bar mitzvah gets a bar mitzvah. Now, we're not religious in nature, but these are all trappings of being a good Jew. And we believe very much that intermarriage is a negative, a very, very bad thing for our community. We try and bring Jewish boys and Jewish girls together so that they can meet each other. The way to keep our community together is by putting our community together. We're very involved with just about every Jewish organization in the world, from B'nai B'rith, which is our favorite, and AIPAC, and Stand With Us, and all of the other Conference of Presidents, all of the groups that we work with. And we're a vehicle. We're a vehicle that it's our job. We know that our job is to get our kids involved in Jewish organizations. There's 1 million organizations out there for non-Jewish kids, and great ones, by the way. They're all terrific. But the non-Jews don't get involved in Jewish organizations. A few of them do, but for the most part, not. It's up to us and our community to keep our kids involved in Jewish organizations. Otherwise, they'll fail. And everybody loses if that's the case.
So this is your answer to the Jewish continuity dilemma.
Absolutely.
Is to build an organization that has Jewish identity very much at its center.
As an example, in the college world, philanthropy is a very, very big situation. Almost all of the undergrads are involved in some philanthropic entity. Our philanthropies are all Jewish in nature, all Jewish or Israeli, every one of them. And the Heart Association is great, and the Cancer Society, they're all wonderful. However, non-Jews don't support Jewish organizations for the most part. Our kids need to know that beside the opera and beside the Philharmonic and beside a hospital, again, all wonderful things, that they need to be involved in Jewish causes. Tikkun Olam is something that's real, and they have to learn that from college forward. This is something that left the community years ago, that people weren't, do your own thing. People were irresponsible as far as keeping our community together. And there's one thing, if they join AEPI, they are joining a Jewish organization. They're going to be doing Jewish things, and we're proud of it. We're not walking on eggshells. We're public about it. We scream it from the rooftops, and we let everybody know this is who we are. Now, interestingly enough, you'd think, well, with that kind of requirement and involvement, would people shy away? Because it's work. It's work to stay Jewish. It's work to be involved. Our numbers have grown dramatically. Over the last 30 years, we have quadrupled. The more Jewish we are, the more proud we are, the more involved we are, the bigger we get. And it's seen because every Jewish organization in the world wants to partner with AEPI. So it works.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I was a founder of the Delta Beta chapter at the University of New Hampshire in 1968.
I know,
so
terrific.
I have to burnish my AEPI credentials. Andy, I want to move to the topic of today's program. How big a problem is anti-Semitism on campus in 2019?
It's a very big problem. I haven't seen anything like this. I've only read about it in the 40s and 50s when anti-Semitism was rabid on campuses. And then we had a golden era in the United States for 30 or 40 years where things really were wonderful and people thought anti-Semitism was gone almost. However, in the last 10 years, it has crept forward. It is now stronger than what I read, what was going on here in the 40s and 50s. It is open anti-Semitism. It is kids have been beat up. Swastikas, hundreds of swastikas all over the place, campus to campus to campus. I have statistics here that would scare you. And there's an empowerment that people who are either naturally anti-Semitic or their family or their heritage, whatever it is, that empowers them, the last 10 years has been the worst ever. And we're sitting here in Washington, D.C., and 30 miles away at Towson University, we had 3 of our students beat up, all went to the hospital. This was last May. The school had a vigil afterwards against hate, but this is 30 miles from here in Baltimore. Very sad situation. And it's
how do you train these members, chapter members, leaders, at the chapter level, at the campus level, to deal with these kinds of issues? And then what do you do at the national level?
Well, to give you, and I'll just give you the quote of the numbers. Last year, 1,282 anti-Semitic incidents on campus. 1,282. That's a staggering number. The best, there's, to answer the question, it's really several-fold. The university is one place. Let's take that first. The administrations have to be lockstep with us in dealing with any incident that occurs. That's number one. Now, the difficulty there is there's many professors that are openly anti-Semitic. They are protected from being fired under the laws that govern our tenure in our colleges and universities. That's a big problem. However, most university presidents understand and they are publicly against any anti-Semitic incidents. But the fact is that's part one, is the school. The second part is as far as training our young men, and with us young women who are involved with Friends of API and the organizations that we're with. It's the organizations that we partner with. B'nai B'rith, APAC, Stand With Us, Hasbara, SSI, all of these organizations work together to train our members and other Jewish students on campus, on how to deal with this. Now, they don't train them to be violent or to fight back. They do train them to be proud of who we are, obviously, but also to answer questions. A lot of it is the Jewish kids feel inadequate about answering the questions about what's going on. They don't necessarily know the history of what's going on in the Middle East. So when something gets hurled at them that's not a rock, a question that gets hurled at them, then they have the ammunition of an answer to a question to be able to deal with it.
Let me ask you, one of the things, and I've been to a number of AEPI conventions, and one of the interesting parts for me always is when someone will ask, when you have the assembled group together, how many of you have been to Israel? And 75% of the hands will go up.
At least, yes.
Now, since so much of this anti-Semitism is focused on delegitimizing Israel, the boycott, divestment, sanctions, the BDS movement, as the main example, but not just the only example, how much does having had that Israel experience help your guys on the ground, basically, in being able to counter the kind of anti-Semitism that we're seeing today?
That's the best thing. If the Birthright program and bringing kids to Israel and them going there on their own, all of the ways to get students to Israel empowers them to understand that what's being said on campus to what's being said on CNN and various places that spout news that isn't correct. They know in their heart of hearts, they know because they've seen it, they know that that's false information. And as a result, by going to Israel, that gives them the knowledge that what they're hearing is incorrect. Now, interesting part of what goes on a campus, the other side is a very, very well funded. And they go to mosques and they look for well-spoken, presentable people, young people. They put them in a room for a couple of months in a hotel room, and they literally jazz them up. They teach them how to rabble-rouse. They teach them how to gin up a crowd. They really teach them how to take a campus that could be a sleepy campus and turn it into a problem for a couple of years. And that's exactly what happened. So we don't know, because we're behind the eight ball, we don't know whether it's going to be they find a kid from Rutgers or from Duke or from Berkeley or from York in Toronto, wherever it is. Kid comes to campus after a couple of months of this kind of training, and all of a sudden, hell breaks loose. There's apartheid walls, and there's die-ins, and there's targets of blood from babies and things that are horrible, absolutely horrible. And these things are funded for a couple of years with the presentable, well-spoken young man or young woman that they have. Then that person graduates and the campus goes dark. And then it starts again somewhere else, but we're always behind. We don't know where it will be. There's 800 major universities in the United States and Canada. So with these 800 major schools, we never know where it will be or when it will be. And also, the other side has done an incredible job in something called intersectionality. They've taken the groups that they tell them they should be offended. The LGBTQ groups, black groups, women's groups, all kinds of groups that they've gone to and said, you're an oppressed minority. Things are bad by how you're treated. The Palestinians are treated in the same way. Therefore, you must hate Israel. It can be a Save the Whales group, or a pro-peace group, or a Feed the Hungry group. And they go to these groups and they say, well, as a result, another oppressed group is the Palestinians. You must now be anti-Israel. And they've been very successful at this.
You've talked about the administrations, college administrations, student governments. That's the other side here, maybe the same side. How do you rate the response of student governments to these particular problems?
Well, this is where we've had the best answer to deal with this. That we've seen an actual decrease because of serious proactive work done by basically two groups, AEPI and a group called Turning Point USA. I'll give you the numbers. 2014 and 15, there were 44 campaigns for BDS in the United States. 22 of them passed. This past year, that 44 campaigns is down to 7 campaigns, and 2 passed. And the reason is that AEPI puts student government senators in student government, and Turning Point puts pro-Israel student government presidents into office. And we have been working with them the last several years and getting not just AEPIs, non-Jewish men and women as well who are sympathetic to Israel, who understand that BDS is bad for everyone. By electing student government people, we have turned the tide at these campuses where now there's so many pro-Israel people on these campuses, the other side passes on that campus and says it's not worth the fight. So we have been successful by student government means, which was, again, it's all theater. Realize that no school actually divests. Even if they pass it, Chancellor Yudof in California, Judy, and it was on the Hillel board with me for many years, and Chancellor Yudof used to come to our meetings, and he'd talk about how the screaming and the yelling and whenever they would pass something for BDS, the other side would go crazy thinking, oh, we've had a big victory. There's no victory. The University of California system isn't divesting one penny from Israel. No one is divesting a penny from Israel. But it's theater. It's theater that when they have these events, whether it's a BDS vote, they almost don't care whether they win or they lose. They just want to have the theater happen, because what it truly happens in the scare that we live with today, the biggest concern we have, is that the future congressmen and senators 30 years from now who are on campus today will walk by these things. And it used to be, again, in the golden age, Israel was a wonderful place, the star at the top of the hill, the shining star. Nobody would believe anything that was said about it. Today, the other side has really put in this little crackle of doubt. Maybe Israel isn't such a great place. Maybe Israel is responsible for some problems. Maybe Israel is an aggressor in this situation or that situation. By putting that doubt in 30 years from today, when these people become congressmen and senators, that's something that we're very nervous about.
So that begs the question.
And that is the toughest thing we deal with.
That begs the question then. There are answers to all of these charges. There
Absolutely.
are answers to the three examples that you choose about instilling doubt, about the democracy, the strong democracy that Israel is, the fact that it is not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, strong as it is, living in that neighborhood of authoritarian dictatorships, terrorist-led groups, are we turning that tide in terms of winning hearts and minds?
At every API convention, we have Frank Luntz come to talk about what's going on and how to combat by the correct words and the correct phrases. Our undergrads and most Jewish kids, they know the truth. They know Israel's a democracy. They know that when the other side throws a 19-year-old gay kid off a 20-story building to his death, they know that's wrong. In the hearts and minds of good thinking people, they know which side is correct and which side isn't, and which side is running a PR war against Israel. However, getting that out and getting the correct word out, teaching everybody how to deal with it, is the biggest thing that we have. Now, we have a lot of allies. Again, Frank, who comes to our convention, but in B'nai B'rith, in APAC, in SSI, and Stand With Us, and Hasbara, and so many other organizations, Turning Point, that teach our kids, and everybody who will listen, by the way, every good kid who will listen, what the real story is. And that's getting that story out is the challenge. To the places where the story gets out and the correct wording gets out, we're able to fight and deal with it. The places where it's not, or where the other side has a 2-month jump on us, and we have no clue that they're coming to the University of New Mexico at the 2 months from now, and they're going to rile up the whole campus. We don't know. We have to follow because we don't know where they're going next. The ICC, thank God, it was an organization, the Israel on Campus Coalition, has done a lot of research and helped all of the groups into trying to give us intel as to where our enemies are going next. We do have great allies. We do have people that know the right answers. But remember, as I said, 800 college campuses, major. There's 8,000 college campuses, 800 major ones. To be on top of this and know where they're going and be able to fight it is a daily battle. And we're up for this daily battle at API, and want to thank B'nai B'rith for being involved with us and helping us. It is a daily battle.
Well, as we know, this is played out on the world stage. We've talked today about university campuses. Of course, Andy, you participated with us in our public diplomacy work at the United Nations and in other places. And these are battles that are fought out not just on the campus, of course, but in other fora as well. And we certainly need to be prepared for it. I think many of us are of a like mind in how to approach these issues. And certainly AEPI is very much a part of that effort. We thank you for joining us today. Hope you'll come back. Lots of things to talk about Jewish continuity and other issues, and we very much are pleased that you were with us today. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our podcast. Please visit our website, bnaibrith.org, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on your smartphone through the podcast app for iPhone or through Google Play for Android. And lastly, tell a friend about us. For my guest, Andy Borans, I'm Dan Mariaschin. We'll talk to you next time on the B'nai B'rith International Podcast.